Welcome back. We are going to be looking at lesson 1-6. 1-6 is on rounding decimals. Rounding decimals is a concept that you should have learned a long time ago. I think it's a 3rd or 4th grade skill, but it's not looked at a whole lot after 3rd or 4th grade. So it's a skill that we require you to know. You're also going to be using it a lot in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and definitely into those higher maths if you choose to take those. And so it's something that we're going to review here in pre-algebra. So lesson 1-6 is rounding decimals. So let's get to our iNotebooks. See if I can get mine pulled up here. And we'll get started as soon as mine comes up. Here we go. Okay, lesson 1-6, rounding decimals. So in 1-5, we learned about all of the decimal place values. And so now we're going to learn about rounding decimals. So there are 2 kind of sayings that we're going to learn. And the first one says 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. And what I mean by these is if it says 5 or more, raise the score, it means if you are rounding and the next number is 5 or more, round up. If the next number is 4 or less, leave the number alone. And drop all numbers after. Okay, so let's make this a little bit more concrete. So for example, we're going to say round to the nearest hundredth. And so we're going to say our number is 48.36741. We're going to round to the nearest hundredth. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to identify a couple of things. We first need to identify what is the hundredths place, and then we need to look at the number after the hundredths place. So if you remember in our place value chart, the decimal is here and then tenths, hundredths. So the hundredths place is 2 digits after the decimal. So tenths, hundredths. So the 6 is the hundredths place. I'm going to put an H by it because we know it's the hundredths place. And then what's more important than that number is the number after it. So the number after it is the one we're really looking at. Okay, so we're really looking at the 7. That's the one that we're really interested in. So the one that we're really interested in, we're going to go to our sayings. So is it 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? Well, 7 is 5 or more. So we're going to raise the score. 5 or more, raise the score. What that means is that we're going to look at our hundredths place and we're going to round the 6 up to a 7. So this tells you what to do, but the 6 is what we're actually rounding. So this is going to be 48.3. We're going to raise the score on the 6 to a 7, and everything else gets dropped. So we don't have anything else behind. So we're going to drop everything else behind it. So we drop everything else. So we raise the score and we drop everything else behind it. So our answer, our rounded answer, is 48.37. That is our rounded answer of this number. Let's try another one. So we're going to round to the nearest tenth. And this time we're going to do 361.3 3827. And we're going to round to the nearest 10th. So again, we're going to find the 10th place. We know that the 10th place is 1 after, right? The 10th place is 1 after the decimal place. So the 10th place is what we are rounding to, but we need to look at the one directly after it, right? So the one directly after it, is it 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest? Well, it's 5 or more. So we know that we're going to raise the score on the 3. So we are going to change the 3 to a 4, 361.4, and we're going to drop everything else behind it. And that is rounded to the nearest 10th. And you always know that it's rounded to the 10th because the 10th place is what's going to be left over. So let's look at some 4 or less, let it rest. So we're going to say round to the nearest 10,000th, if I can spell today. Round to the nearest 10,000th. So we're going to have 4.6287126. So we need to find out how many decimal places are the 10,000th. So we have tens, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So the 7 is what we're looking at. That's what we're rounding to. We need to look at the number after it. So we're looking at the 1. The 1, is it 5 or more, raise the score? Is it 4 or less, let it rest? It's 4 or less. So 4 or less, let it rest means we are not going to change the 7. We are going to let it rest. So in this case, we are going to just leave the 7 alone. We're going to let it rest, and we are going to drop everything behind it. And that is our answer. So let's do one more of this. This time we're going to round to the nearest whole number. This time we're not even going to have a decimal. So we're going to do 41.36972. Round to the nearest whole number. Well, a whole number is the ones place. Whole number is the ones place. So this is the guy we're looking at. Again, we're going to look at the guy right behind it. This is the one that's going to determine what happens to that 1. So is it 5 or more, raise the score? 4 or less, let it rest. It's 4 or less. So therefore, we're going to leave it alone. We're going to let it rest. So our answer is just 41. Now, if you wanted to put 41.0, technically that's not rounding to the nearest whole number. Technically, that's to the 10th. So we don't want that. We just want 41. That is rounding to the nearest whole number. So that is rounding decimals, just kind of a review. If you need some extra practice or some additional help, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do some more problems with you. We'll do some more in class as well. Until next time, we'll see you later.